Okay, we're live. Good morning, students and friends. Thank you for coming to the Capric 2022 Spring Lecture Series. Let me introduce our host, Professor John Kalaris, founder of Aristad University. John?
Christopher, thank you for the kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct honor and a real pleasure to bring to you today the first speaker of the series that Professor Lepinske has organized with your university and other Central Asian countries. Let me just briefly, very briefly, because you're not here to listen to me, but to Professor Lepinske, let me just say that under his leadership, this organization has flourished so well. And most importantly, Mr. Lepinske has surrounded himself with distinguished and excellent professors and other business people. But most importantly, he has established 9 committees, 9 different areas that we explore, look at, not only here in the States, but around the world. Let me just mention a few of them so you know: the agriculture, education, productivity, energy, quality, management, marketing, and a few others, 9 committees altogether. However, we're not here to listen to me today. We're here to listen from the master, the one and only, the organizer, the leader, and founder since 1999 of this organization, Professor Harry Lepinske. Professor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Good evening. Welcome to the Spring 2022 Business and Management Training Program, again being presented by the Central Asian Productivity Research Center and its Business and Professional Institute. Hope you all had a good day. We're going to be talking briefly about business and management at the very basics, because then each class will focus on a specific topic, for instance, productivity, quality. And you just heard Professor John Kalaris from Harriston University, and he's the specialist in the United States. In fact, he lectures worldwide on quality and quality management. Starting next week, we'll meet formally every Tuesday evening at, I guess it's 5 o'clock in Baku. So today, of course, we were requested to present this lecture on Wednesday because of your social event having to do with the university yesterday. In behalf of our center, we thank the rector, Albert Isavis, who's been a long time, in fact, going back 20 some years, and Professor Albert Alakaborov, the dean, and Professor Kumar Mamadova for all the time and work to organize this project. Professor Mamadova was one of our first students in May 1999 in our first class at Nakhchivan State University. And I want to congratulate her for her motivation and her effort to study to earn her doctorate degree and now teaching at the university. Today, we are working through the center's live stream system managed by Christopher Wager and the center's director of media technology. And we're coming from Dodgeville, Wisconsin, and Chris is coming from Glenwood, Illinois. Before we begin, you should have 3 items. First, can you see that? First, you have the schedule for the entire 10 weeks. We sent that out for you, so you can refer to what topic on what day. Also, the glossary, which covers all the main terminology, all the main words for the entire 10 weeks. And then, lastly, the terminology, the most important words only for today. Now, if you look at the screen, it says, what was your first business? And we want to illustrate briefly how simply business is and how complicated business is. You see the lemonade stand. You could have soft drinks or maybe sell coffee or tea. So you look at two items. You have a product that you buy or products and mix them and sell them.
Share screen.
Pardon me?
Share screen. We don't see that.
Where is it again? Share screen.
Go back to Zoom. And you'll see yourself, and then hit the share screen button at the top.
Okay,
not
leave
appearing.
leave that. Okay, while we're working on that, you see business profit entrepreneur.
They
So
can't see
when you
anything.
start your own business, you're the entrepreneur, the eternal salesman, the risk taker. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A lot of people don't realize you're in your own business. It's time consuming, and you're there to make a profit. That's business. So you see, it's pretty simple just looking at a simple lemonade stand or a coffee or tea stand. But when you get into something, in fact, you may have to have a license. You may have to have other permits, health inspector. So it's you have maybe 15, 20 situations that you have to clear before you can open that business, all through the local government, federal government, whatever.
Excuse me, Harry.
Yeah.
You have to hit the share screen up at the top of the.
Button at the top.
Top or bottom, it's greenish. It's a greenish screen.
All we see is the PowerPoint.
There's nothing coming up.
Well, then you're looking at your screen. You have to go back to Zoom. Click on your internet connection, the little Google icon at the bottom.
There are no buttons. All I see is a full screen.
Nothing comes up.
Full screen PowerPoint.
Yeah, but you're seeing that on your computer itself. You're not bringing it up through the Zoom call.
I don't know how to get out of this.
You'll have to right click on it and say end presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go ahead and click on your Chrome and get back to Zoom.
Share screen, Zoom? The original? Oh, yeah. Okay, I see now.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that good?
Is that okay? Yeah, you see me.
Yeah, but we're not sharing yet.
Sorry about that. I don't know how to get Harry back on. That shares the. No. Oh, here.
Yeah.
That's where we were.
No.
Harry is not showing up.
Yeah, I'm,
What do you see right now on your screen?
You and Harry. You had it a minute ago.
I see you. I see President Zelensky in the background.
Oh, in my TV? Yeah, yeah, he's addressing the US Congress.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you see on your screen right now?
Zoom meeting. It says
Christopher, you're
live.
muted. You're muted, Christopher.
Chris, we see John on.
John takes up half the screen.
John is on the main screen right now.
Sorry, folks.
Christopher, if you can hear me, you're muted right now if you're speaking to Harry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Down at the bottom,
Yeah,
you see share screen.
yeah.
Click it.
That's weird. Now I see all
Just wait for a second.
diagrams from the.
Does it?
It gives me a choice of PowerPoint presentation.
Yep. Is the PowerPoint open?
Yeah,
Yeah, we had it on.
Okay, so click on that.
weird. I thought you were trying to get out of that.
No, you want to click on that. There. Now should
There you
there.
have it.
See it.
Beautiful.
Now go over on the PowerPoint menu and say begin the program from the beginning. There you go.
From the beginning.
Beginning?
Yeah, from beginning, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Walk yourself through this introduction.
What?
Click on this so that you go to the next slide.
Just click anywhere.
There you go.
And just keep on clicking until you get to the slide you want.
It won't move. Oh, wait a minute.
Just click anywhere and then we'll move forward.
It won't move.
Click on next.
Yeah, I did. It won't move, still won't move. There's next.
There you go.
Next one. Go to the next one.
It is the next one.
No, they go next after this.
So you know it's adding.
Yeah, we did all that. Want to go to the next topic.
Keep pressing.
No,
Got it, Harry.
there. How's that?
There, beautiful.
Okay.
And when you get finished, up towards the top, it'll say end screen sharing, and you'll click on that. When you're done,
Mine says you are screen sharing. Stop share. Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, as a young entrepreneur, there are three things that will be involved in your life. first of all, survive the business. Do you have enough capital? Do you have enough sales? And then, of course, you're focusing on your growth to survive. It's constant selling. They call the entrepreneur the eternal salesman. Now, I'm not going to be talking too much about any one subject because almost every topic that I'm introducing today will be a separate lecture, such as quality. I mentioned that Professor Kalaris will be doing that. Quality management, Professor Kalaris. Professor for marketing will be Professor Hickman. Entrepreneurship is Professor Hussein, who was with me. The two of us first taught together in May 1999. Productivity is Professor Malcolm. Finance will be Professor Kristen. So, and they're all experienced in their field. Otherwise, they've spent as much time in their businesses as teaching. Okay. Chris, I'm going to skip the PowerPoints.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. They're
that's
taking
fine, Harry.
too
You
much.
did a great job of talking
Yeah,
about
they're
it. So
taking
if
too
you're not
much
talking-
time. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Well, I have to, how do I come in now?
Okay, proceed.
Yeah, we're trying to come back, return.
You are back. Go ahead and just talk.
You see me?
Yes, 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 we see you.
I can't see it here. That's why. Okay. So business, to simplify it, is all profit-seeking activities and enterprises that provide goods and service that an economic system needs for profit. Because you also have organizations that are called nonprofits. They can sell products, but they cannot keep the income as a profit that has to be reused for a social project or to expand the organization. In the state of Illinois, where I live, we have to register every year. We have to register because we are a nonprofit. We have to register our budget and show how the money was used. And none of us can keep the money. In fact, every one of us involved in the research center are not paid. We're all volunteers. In fact, the state's attorney in Illinois always asks me for a meeting to review the budget because they can't understand how productive we are with so little money. And then we talked about business. You've got to have a profit. That's real business. So you can walk away and have money in your pocket, which are the rewards for the business who take the risks. So you are a risk taker. Now, private enterprise system, as you know, you came out of a communist country, which was central economy, central planning, central marketing, everything was centralized. And you've gone to a private enterprise system. So the economic system, it's capitalism, free market economy, in which success or failure depends on how well firms match and counter the offering of competition. Competition, as you understand, is a war. It's a battle between organizations, businesses, etc., among competitors for consumer acceptance. So if you have two travel agencies in the city, you've got two people that are competing each other for the same market, meaning the people that live in your city, in your village, and the surrounding area. So you've got to go out and make sure that you can contact and sell, not just make sales calls. Productivity, you've got to sell. And that's how you generate your income. And then you're also moved from the central economy to capitalism. which is the economic system founded on the principle that competition between business best serves society. The real capitalist system in a country, the first one was the United States at the level that any other countries reach even today. A lot of them have social influences. Of course, we have a problem that's going that way now. This means that with this, you have the ability to have private property. You can own it, you can use it, you can buy it, you can sell it. And then if you said a will, that's your, a will is a legal document that describes what you want your property to be, they call it bequeath, but it's to be given to. So my property and my will, I've got everything outlined that everything that I have when I die will go to my son. And then you have your factors of production. This is, of course, expanded business where they're larger. That's the basic inputs into the private enterprise system, including natural, human resources, capital, and entrepreneurship. So your natural would be, for instance, in woodworking products, you'd have to cut down some trees. You'd have to have a supply of wood. So that wood is a natural resource. The human resource would be the employees that are involved in the cutting, the lumbering factor, the transportation, and then the usage, furniture or whatever you're going to do with it. Capital, you have to have money to do all this, to pay those people. And you're one business, so that's entrepreneurship. So just to review the entrepreneurship, taking risk to establish a business. He's the risk taker, the eternal salesman. In the US, more than 90% of the US economy depends on entrepreneurial enterprises. Most people in Europe or around the world think the United States all depends on car manufacturing or shipbuilding or producing steel or whatever. No, that's about 10% of our economy. In fact, the United States is not just a manufacturing economy. The United States is a huge agriculture. In fact, our state of Illinois is the largest state that exports soybeans around the world. Most of it now is China. But so the United States is both agriculture and production manufacturing. Now, we also talk about strategic alliances as working with other people. It doesn't have to be a contract where you actually have to buy or sell something. Well, it could be, but the strategic alliance is kind of a trust situation. You put it on paper, but I've done a lot of, half my life, I've done strategic alliances. In other words, you've seen Professor Collares today. I'll go to Professor Collares and say, Professor, you have these assets, you have this ability, I have this. If we put it together, we can produce this or provide this service. One time I was working with a partner in an entrepreneurship partnership, and we went to an accounting service, and then we went to a few other services that were purely service, no production, no product, purely human resources. And we organized a strategic alliance of all the organizations. And basically it becomes a whole new business then, because now we're not just providing accounting services or management services, we're providing across the board services. You also have a system of management. For instance, you have a Hyatt hotel in Baku. Now that Hyatt hotel, that name comes from a family here in Chicago called the Pritzker family. they built and own, manage their own hotels, but because of the popularity, other people have gone to them, such as the investors in Baku, and said, okay, we will build a motel. You tell us how to build a motel and how to manage it. So normally what they will do is bring in a manager, a trained manager, and a staff. For instance, a general manager, the room manager, a bar and beverage manager, break it down so that the 4 or 5 assistant managers are all employees of Hyatt. And then all the other employees, what they call casual labor and the bartenders and that, are Hyatt. In other words, they're paid by the locals, the local owners. So that's a management contract. And then when we take over, let's say the general management of the entire hotel, we could take the janitorial services and say, wait a minute, we can save money. Why hire these people when we can hire professional people with a service? And if somebody gets sick or going on vacation, we don't have to worry because they'll provide what we call a vacation relief service. So we job out or outsource. Again, there's another word for it, outsourcing. So you're outsourcing the janitorial services. And then when it comes to accounting, we'll say, well, wait a minute, we can do a better job with people that are highly qualified. Again, we don't have to worry about vacation reliefs. We don't have to worry about this. That service may mean that they'll do a certain amount on site and a certain amount off site, but you have a better quality flow of employees, a flow of work, no excuses, the work gets done. So that's another service. Now, I don't have to talk about communism because you already, through your parents' experience, you could technically lecture me probably, or socialism. Now you've gone to a free market economy where you've privatized or in the process of privatizing various government-owned businesses. In other words, under communism, the government owned everything. Housing, stores, all manufacturing. So now the government has gone through a certain amount of privatization. I still think you have a lot of, like the oil company is still owned by the government. But someday there may be a point where they'll privatize that. Now, in some cases, in some of the countries, including the old Soviet Union, the oligarch that ran that company will come in and have a meeting with all the employees and say, well, we're going to privatize and we're all going to give you X number of shares. In other words, a percentage of ownership. So the general employees may have X ownership, supervisors XX ownership, managers XX ownership. And then the government signs off and actually presents ownership of that company to all the employees that work there at the time of privatization, with specifications. There are always paragraphs of specifications that may say, well, you can't do this, you can't sell it for 2 years. So there are different agreements, different contracts. Unfortunately, when privatization in the Soviet Union began, the oligarchs would then call the employees in and say, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Why don't you give me your ownership certificates and I'll give you a case of vodka or 2 or 3 bottles of vodka. And that's a little case. I've seen it. I've known of it. So by the end of the day, the oligarch owns the whole company because he bought off all the employees in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. So that was not a social situation that was very good. Now, John, you were going to conduct kind of a question and answer.
Well, yeah, there is a question about agriculture. If you want to talk about the importance of agriculture in economies, which you did by mentioning the soybean, what Illinois is and so on, but please elaborate on that a little if you could.
What is the specific question?
How does agriculture contribute to the betterment of a country or a business?
It's probably the most basic. You've got to have food for the people. Very basic. Uh, the farming business is a tough business. That's a selling. If you have animals, you have to live with those animals practically. You've got to make sure they're fed. There's water supply there. If they come down with a disease, hogs are very susceptible to like colds, viruses, pneumonia. So you've got to, if one hog gets it, it could go through the whole group. So they've got to watch the health. So it's a tough business. As I said earlier, I'm working here this morning in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. And this is a heavy agriculture. As I look out the window, practically, you can see farms and then some homes and then a little settlement. But it's very important. You've got to have food. In fact, that's one of the problems that we're facing in the world right now. In fact, with our own country, getting the food to the cities now. So agriculture, if we have time after the 10 weeks, I'll try to get our chairman from the agriculture committee, because he's out in the farming district. He lives out there actually. So he was an executive with the Illinois Soybean Association, Soybean Farmers Association. So I'll be glad to bring him in or have a special program for those interested, because Dave is really good at that. Anything else, John?
Not yet.
Value add, grass fed.
Oh, yeah. My son, that they have to, for cows, for instance, they have to have enough grass or hay. And what do you do in the winter where there is no grass?
Yeah.
That means you've had to have enough hay stored. You've got to have an area where you can grow the grass for the hay or the grain. And then, for instance, certain ones, you take the grain part off and save the other, and that can be ground up as feed. In fact, a lot of soybean goes into animal feed.
New markets for grass-fed beef, just grazed.
Oh.
And cheeses.
Yeah, now my son just reminded me, because he's in this farming area here 20 some years. And he pointed out that how the breakdown goes, if you've got cows, depending on, are they for beef, are they for meat, or are they going to be for milking? And then those for milking, how do you have the milk process? Because then a certain amount may go into cheese. So you have a whole new market there, a whole new industry, because that the cheese industry is, the cheese manufacturers are considered a separate industry. So that was a transition from one to the other, the same as the butchering. Yeah, now another thing in the United States is
What happened, Christopher?
I don't know. It looks like Harry blacked out. Let me give him a call here real quick.
Yeah. And Harry, I don't know if you can hear me. I guess not. Okay, no problem.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
You go.
it appears the facility Harry is at doing his lecture just had a power surge,
Oh,
knocked him off the air.
well, Christopher, let me answer one of the questions that was asked. I didn't have the chance to ask Professor Lepinske, but I think I can answer it myself. The question was by Seyedov. Here's another question. He says, should we invest the employees who are not highly qualified, or should we hire only highly qualified workers?
Okay, so
Well,
I'm back on. John's
yes.
still in.
Oh, is he on again?
No, not yet. I'm on. Got him on.
Okay. Let me answer the question then for our colleague there. Obviously, there are two sides to the same coin. If you hire highly qualified people, you have to realize that you have to pay them a lot of money. If they're not qualified, obviously they won't be as costly, but again, they will not be as productive, which means you will have to train them in order to bring them up to par so they can be productive and produce the same way a qualified person does. So basically, it is what the expression goes, as the expression goes, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I would prefer that I don't necessarily hire all of my people who are highly qualified, but I also bring in some not as qualified so I can train them. Because again, let's face it, people who come in ready to hit the floor, they may be bringing baggages that don't necessarily comply with your philosophy, with your mentality. So it is a business call. You as a manager or a leader of a business, you should make that decision and decide if you want highly qualified or none as qualified. In my business, and I've had 5 of them, and I've been teaching this, you'll find out later on when I lecture, I owned 5 different businesses. I was hiring a mixture of both. Highly qualified to begin with, and then I would bring in non as qualified people and train them to be up to par. I hope I'm answering your question. Let me see if there's another question here that has not been answered. The agriculture, he already answered it. No, I don't see any more questions. Here's one. What method do we offer to promote business is another question. Obviously, you're going to hear plenty about, first of all, this is promotion. Promotion falls under advertising, which falls under marketing. And we have an expert, Colleen Hickman, who will address the marketing issue, I think next week or in the upcoming weeks. So you're going to hear direct responses to that question. However, again, to address it at this time, let's see. What methods should we use to promote business? If you can hold on to your question, even I will address that in one of my lectures. And there are about 12 different aspects that we look into, that we deploy when we engage businesses like that, when we try to promote a business. Promoting a business is not an easy task, but I would suggest that A, you wait for Colleen Hickman, who addresses marketing, and B, wait for me for my lectures, and I will address that as well. Let me turn that TV off. Okay, so it won't be distracting. Let me see if we have any more questions. Oh, Sayedov says, thank you. You're welcome. You're very welcome. If there are any more questions, and until Harry comes up again, allow me to recap and emphasize so I can keep you quote unquote busy, okay? Emphasize the topics that he mentioned. First of all, he talked about going into business, becoming an entrepreneur is risky. I want you to remember this: risk never sleeps. Okay, it's always there. Okay, then he talked about outsourcing certain activities, functions of a business, like the cleaning example that he brought up, or and outsourcing, folks, falls under what I will cover at a later point. Remember what Professor Lepinske said? He's only bringing up topics today because all these are issues that will be addressed by the specific presenters. And this one now will be addressed by me at a later time, sourcing and outsourcing. That falls under the category of make or buy. Do you make the product? Do you provide the service yourself, or you outsource it? Which means you run a cost-benefit analysis. In a cost-benefit analysis, we have tangibles and intangibles like costs and fame. Cost is a tangible expense. Fame and reputation is an intangible. So you examine all those, and then you decide if you want to have a service outsourced or provided yourself. And then Professor Lepinske also talked about management system. We have a lot of systems that we deploy in our business. Let me just leave you with this for the time being. And I hate to keep on repeating that. I'll address that at the appropriate time. But if you take the word system, the acronym SYSTEM, in my view, stands for save yourself significant time, effort, and money. And that's what a system is. To say by having a system, you save yourself significant time, effort, and money. Christopher, how are we doing? Oh, there's Harry again. Harry, move the screen further down because we can only see the top of your head, hat. There you go. Unmute yourself, please. Unmute yourself.
Good. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
All right. Harry will be right back. We had a little excitement here.
No problem. I think I kept them busy
If you
while you
want,
folks were away. So
if you want, John, I can fill in about the farming. I'm involved in the farm community.
please do, please, by all
in rural
means.
Wisconsin. So what we're seeing, every market is different, and the demand is different in Europe compared to the United States, and China is different again. And the landscape for using herbicides and pesticides is different here than it is there. And those things drive how farming is done and how the markets respond. One thing that the United States that's growing, a market that's really emerging strongly in the United States, is the organic market and the specialty, the value-added farming products, and cheese, butter, and meat.
Dairy products. Yeah.
Meat that is organic or that's grass-fed, like grass-fed beef, for example, is very popular, or gaining enormous popularity very quickly. So there's really a divergence of markets towards a lot of input and industrialization, but a lot of those farms who have been moving towards that industrialization are now moving the other way towards organic, getting rid of machines, scaling down, and dividing up the farms among children to manage individually and work on a smaller scale and produce more specialty products that might be higher value, that might not be so susceptible to the fluctuations of commodity pricing and things like that.
What you're saying is so accurate. I come from an agricultural family myself, and it is only me and my sister that we split our properties in two. But my cousin has 5 children, and it is so amazing what you just mentioned, because one of them produces cows and sheep, the other produces vegetable, the other produces lumber. And all 3 of them out of the 5, the other 2 became professionals, accountants and an attorney. And all 3 now specialize in those 3 areas. And they're doing a lot better as opposed to doing it all year. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that.
Sure.
Hey, Harry's back.
Yeah.
Professor.
Yeah, they should. Now, introduce the word competition within local farmers. Last year, the year before, Dave Hidley, who's our chairman, agriculture chairman, was an executive with the Illinois Soybean Association. And he gave a report at our meeting about the price of soybeans increasing and the profits for the farmers, et cetera. You know, everything on his side was very positive. So when we published it and sent it to our board members, the chairman for the Economic Development Committee is over in Iowa in farm country. And she reported, she says, yeah, but that's increasing our prices here because it's increased the cost of feed, et cetera, et cetera. So she says, what's good for Illinois is not good for Iowa.
Correct.
So that's another illustration of business. The word competitions creeps into this also.
Professor, if I may, please sit down because we don't see you. We just see you from the nose. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody moved the screen.
Very good.
Yeah. Then as soon as you cross the border, or even in southern Illinois, or southern United States, where it's warm, you go from like the Guernsey, the English brand, the Guernsey and all that, black, what do you call it? Black Angus cows, real good steak cows. You go down south and they're raising the tropical, what do you call them? Longhorns down south. So you even have to have, for the environment, a different type of animal that survives. And then the further south you go, Central and South America, it's another brand. And of course, East Asia. So yeah, every geographic area, environment plays an important role in business. One of the aspects that we always consider as a separate entity, study environment, the geography. So that's why understanding geography for business is very important, especially if you're in international business. If you're in international marketing, you've got to understand history and geography of a country. Back about 50 years ago, one of the African nations had a food problem. So the United States was going to be a good friendship country and loaded up a transport plane of meat, canned meats. And they parachuted over the jungle, spreading this meat out all where there's population so that it would have a good distribution system and at the same time get the meat to the proper people. But a waste of time and a waste of money and did not help the people. They were canned hams. And of course, it was a Muslim country, Islamic country, and the Muslims don't eat ham. So it shows that here you had a whole team, State Department personnel, civilians, you had the military. Nobody thought to look at the label and say, why are we sending ham to a certain country? And knowing that country is Islamic. So it's important to know your facts, not just your business, environment, the financial aspects of the country, the economic aspects of the country. They're all important. And in fact, Professor Colleen Hickman probably will discuss a little bit of this in her marketing class if he goes to international. Any other questions, John? Oh, another thing.
Harry,
Yeah,
during your absence, while you were managing those technical difficulties, there was a question that I tried to address. And basically I said, Professor Colleen Hickman will address this directly because that's under her scope. The question was, what methods do you use to promote a business? But that's part of the marketing that she will do. She will address next.
Oh, yeah. She'll cover the marketing, yeah.
And another question was, does your country, America, depend on any agriculture productions? Like soybean, for instance, do we depend on it? Do we depend on corn? We don't. Anyway, you address that.
We depend upon the farming community. I mean, how do we eat without farms? There's in fact, one of our projects, so maybe 10 years ago, I came up with the idea of no farm. Well, the idea is not mine. No farms, no food. How simple can you make it? If the farmers don't produce the food, the city people and everybody else does not have food. So no farms, no food. So we had them printed in Turkish and supplied them to some of the people in the cities to understand how to appreciate and thank the farmers. A lot of farmers are an overlooked commodity in this country. One of the things I was thinking about when I had to walk away, talking about there's so much about agriculture, maybe the university could organize a 10-day tour to come to the United States and visit farms in Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa. No classroom work, everything would be field. So they're actually talking to farmers, not to lecturers. That would be, I think, a valuable experience for some of the people interested in agriculture.
Harry, I think this is an excellent idea. And actually, in the month of June, I have a committee from India, specifically the area of Gujarat, that's coming to Chicago to look into another area, hospitals and education. But it's the mayor of a city with his entourage of about 6 people, and they'll be doing exactly what you just suggested for the agricultural business. I'll be doing that at our university in June.
Well, up until 3 years ago, I do some work with Northern Illinois University out in DeKalb, but for quite a few years, we had personnel in the health field and mostly medical, people tied with hospitals, would come to the United States for as much as 3 months, stay on campus, but most of our work was off campus. Now you say, why would a management department or a school of business work with medical people? Well, they have to manage the hospitals. Productivity, even competition, of course, over there in China, it's all central planning, but quality management, productivity, and all the other aspects of good management should be introduced in the hospitals. In fact, my son and I always point out that the medical field and the healthcare field have the biggest problem in communications. One hand doesn't tell what the other's doing half the time. I had an experience myself 3 weeks ago. I went into where my wife was, and one of the assistant nurses asked me, there were 2 nurses in there, assistant nurses, asked me how my wife's leg should be, up or should she be down in a wheelchair. Well, I had talked to the doctor, and it was supposed to be in the report like 10 days before that. So I told him what I thought, but I said, you better check in case they changed it and didn't tell me. Well, nobody knew. I said, shouldn't that be in writing someplace? They said, yes, but somebody didn't put it in there. Yeah. So that's communications. But the 2 aspects that I always talk about. Another thing is attention to detail. When I'm interviewing a new employee, I stress that they're going to have to be good at attention to detail and follow through. You start a project, you finish it. You don't start 6 projects and don't finish anything. Attention to detail and follow through. And that's in the interview. And then when I was with another company, I had a form that I would use I would assign. These were management trainees right from the university. And I would send them out into the field, nothing to do in the corporate office, send them into the field and work with a manager or an assistant manager in one of our facilities. And then at the end of the week, the manager in charge of the training would complete this 2-page report, very simple. And the two things right on top is attention to detail, follow through, tardiness, and attention to time. Remember the old saying in the restaurant industry, and this is good for you over there, if you got time to clean, if you got time to lean, you have time to clean. So you don't waste time. You're being paid by the hour, you work the hour. So all these fit in. Yeah, and a lot of this is not in textbooks. You know that, John.
Yes, absolutely.
So as far as medical and healthcare, management background is important. Other questions?
I don't see any more questions. Christopher, do you see any? I don't think so. But until anybody comes up, and since Harry is looking for something, let me re-emphasize what he just said about communication and hospitals. Actually, in our university, we have a special program called Hospitality Management / Leadership. And the reason for that, Harry and the audience as well, is most of the hospitals, and I bet you all know this, I hope it's not going on in your country, but here, what they do is the following. They take a doctor who made a name for himself or herself, became famous, did something huge, very important at the hospital, and they make that person the leader, the president of the hospital, which is a double jeopardy, because the person now is no longer in the surgery room where he or she specializes excuse me, in, and is a leader or manager and knows nothing about management. Mm-hmm. That is why we have designed the program, Healthcare Management Leadership. Okay, so we train people how to manage hospitals, and we let the doctors be in the surgery room, which is what they're best at. That was a great point that you made, and I just want to reemphasize.
No, I agree with you. That's why the Chinese government were sending all these doctors over here.
Yeah.
Well, we would take them out to various hospitals, healthcare facilities, and whatever, physical therapy facilities for experience to introduce better care for people in China, but mostly just for management, so they know how to manage their facilities. They're very important. They would come here for 3 months for that project.
On another note,
talking about hospitality, when I was with Purdue University, we had a large hospitality management department, and it was very prominent. People from all over the world would come and register for that.
You know, I just wrote a book on hospitality excellence, right?
Yes, congratulations. Congratulations. What book is this now? 8, 9?
10.
8?
10.
I figured, yeah, I know. I've written some reviews about some of your books, as you know.
Yes.
So we'll probably have something in our newsletter about it, the way it looks.
Harry, if I may follow up on another major topic that you mentioned about helping that African country and dropping meat. However, it was an Islamic country. Yeah. You probably know, and I think your audience should know the following. Chevy company, automobile company, produces cars and sells a lot of them to Mexico and other Latin American countries. Just about every Chevy car coming from America, especially the smaller ones, because they're economic, are doing well. The one that really did not sell any was a make called Nova. Now, you know about this, right?
Yeah.
And Nova, folks, in Spanish means no go, Nova, no go. So now they were promoting a car, speaking of the question that this gentleman asked here about promotion and marketing, they were promoting a car that in their language basically interpreted or translated as it does not go. No wonder they didn't sell any. So you have to understand the culture, the language, and everything else that goes on in each and every country before you start promoting. And thank you for mentioning that here.
I teach this topic in my international marketing.
Beautiful.
Class. And one other one is real important is when KFC, the old chicken operation, when they introduced KFC into China, the slogan "finger licking good" was translated into "eat your fingers."
Yeah.
So, well, listen, it's that time and we're going to wrap it up. We want to thank you for your kind attention. Feel free to send questions. You have on the material we sent you, you have my email. If there's anything, I can forward it to Professor Collaros, who will be with you for the next 9 weeks now. Today's the first one of the 10. And we want to thank you for your kind attention. And again, I want to thank the Dean. I want to thank Professor Mammadova and the Chancellor, the Rector, Isabiev. Thank you for your time.
Great presentation. Thank you.